Listen carefully, because this message is not arriving to comfort confusion, it is arriving to confront truth. You are his wife in destiny, in spiritual recognition, and in divine alignment, yet you are not his first priority in how he lives, chooses, and shows up, and heaven is no longer allowing that imbalance to stay hidden. This is not a message of rejection, and it is not a declaration of loss. It is a revelation meant to stop you from carrying weight that was never meant to rest on your shoulders alone. You have felt the contradiction in quiet ways, in moments where your presence was assumed instead of honored, where your loyalty was counted on but not reciprocated, and where your patience was stretched while clarity was delayed. You did not imagine the connection, and you did not misunderstand the calling, but destiny without discipline creates confusion, and love without order slowly drains the soul. Heaven never names a woman wife so she can be placed second to comfort, habits, fear, or avoidance. This message comes now because your spirit has been wrestling with questions your mouth avoided asking, and angels respond when silence starts costing dignity. You may have told yourself that timing will fix everything, that pressure makes people distant, or that your understanding will eventually inspire change, but divine truth does not operate on endless postponement. A wife is not defined by how much she tolerates, she is defined by how much she is honored. When honor is missing, the soul feels unrest even if the mind tries to justify it. You are not wrong for sensing the imbalance, and you are not ungrateful for wanting consistency. Heaven sees how often you minimized your needs to protect the bond, how many times you adjusted yourself to avoid being seen as demanding, and how deeply you hoped your steadiness would awaken his responsibility. Love is not proven through endurance alone, it is proven through presence, action, and alignment. When alignment is absent, love becomes one-sided devotion instead of shared purpose. You are not asking for perfection, you are asking for priority, and those are not the same thing. Being chosen as a wife does not mean being chosen last in action. You were never meant to compete with distractions, unfinished healing, or misplaced focus. The role you carry requires partnership, not postponement. Angels speak now because the imbalance has reached a point where silence would equal permission. You have been faithful to the vision even when behavior contradicted it, and that faithfulness has cost you emotional energy you never complained about. But heaven does not reward self-abandonment, it restores divine order. This message is not instructing you to chase, convince, or demand, it is reminding you to stand in truth. If he is not making you his first priority, it reflects his current alignment, not your worth. You were chosen because of your depth, not because of your tolerance for neglect. A wife in divine language carries authority, wisdom, and influence, not invisibility or uncertainty. You may feel torn between understanding his struggle and honoring your own needs, but compassion does not require self-erasure, and patience does not require silence forever. There is a difference between waiting with dignity and waiting while shrinking. Heaven never asked you to shrink. When heaviness rises in your chest after another unmet expectation, that is your spirit responding to disorder. Pay attention to it. You are allowed to notice patterns without labeling yourself impatient. You are allowed to desire consistency without feeling demanding. Love that requires you to disappear is not divine love, it is imbalance disguised as devotion. Angels do not support connections that drain one soul to preserve another's comfort. They support alignment where both rise together. This message arrives now because the season is shifting, and truth must be faced before movement can occur. You are not here to rescue him from unreadiness, and you are not here to teach priority. Through silent suffering. Growth requires choice, and choice requires awareness. If he continues to place you behind everything else, it is because he has not fully stepped into the role heaven assigned him. That does not make you less chosen. It reveals where responsibility has been delayed. You may fear that clarity will push him away, but silence has already been costing you peace. Divine connections do not break from truth, they break from avoidance. You do not need to beg, explain, or overprove your value. Your presence already carries it. What you must release now is the belief that endurance equals devotion. Marriage energy is not sustained by hoping someone will change while you become depleted. It is sustained by mutual recognition of worth. You are not here to be convenient, you are here to be cherished. Heaven honors women who stand in self-respect as much as it honors patience. This message is not telling you to leave, and it is not commanding you to stay, it is asking you to see clearly. When clarity enters, decisions become grounded, even when they are uncomfortable. You are allowed to pause over giving. You are allowed to redirect energy inward. You are allowed to let silence speak where words have failed. If he is meant to walk beside you, truth will not scare him, it will awaken him. If he resists accountability, that resistance will reveal more than promises ever could. Remember this, being a wife in destiny does not mean being overlooked in reality. Divine order always restores balance, either through growth or through separation, and you do not need to force either. Stand rooted. Remain open but whole. Let dignity lead where fear once guided you. Angels are watching how you respond now, not with desperation, but with self-respect. When a woman remembers who she is, heaven moves on her behalf without her chasing anything at all. There is something important you must understand now, because this phase you are standing in is not accidental, and it is not meant to confuse you forever. Heaven is allowing clarity to rise because love that remains undefined eventually turns into quiet suffering. You are his wife in destiny, that truth has not changed, but destiny does not excuse delay, and spiritual connection does not replace daily responsibility. You have been patient beyond what most people could sustain, and that patience came from hope, not weakness. You believed that consistency would be met with consistency, that loyalty would invite leadership, and that understanding would eventually inspire him to step fully into the role assigned to him. Yet what you are facing now is the painful space between intention and action. Intention speaks beautifully, but action reveals truth. You may have noticed how easily he prioritizes what brings him comfort, validation, or escape, while what requires emotional presence, accountability, and effort is postponed. This does not mean he does not care, but it does mean he is not fully aligned. Alignment is proven when choices match calling. A man can feel deeply and still fail to lead correctly. You are not imagining the distance, and you are not creating problems by acknowledging it. Awareness is not rebellion, it is maturity. Heaven is not asking you to ignore reality to protect a connection. It is asking you to see clearly so you stop carrying confusion as if it were love. You have likely questioned yourself, wondering if you expected too much, if you should have been quieter, more flexible, or less emotionally present. Those thoughts did not come from truth, they came from imbalance. When someone you are connected to does not prioritize you, the mind often turns inward to find fault, even when the issue is external. This message arrives to interrupt that pattern. You were not chosen to diminish yourself so someone else could remain comfortable. You were chosen because of your strength, your emotional depth, and your ability to build something lasting. A wife in divine understanding is not an accessory, she is a partner, and partnership requires presence. You have been present even in absence, loyal even in uncertainty, and supportive even when support was not returned. That kind of devotion is rare, and heaven does not overlook it. But devotion without boundaries becomes self-neglect. Angels are not calling you to withdraw love, they are calling you to withdraw permission for imbalance. You are allowed to expect effort without guilt. You are allowed to pause emotional labor when it is not being valued. You are allowed to notice when words are not followed by movement. This does not make you cold, it makes you grounded. Love that grows in truth does not fear accountability. If accountability feels threatening to him, it reveals where growth is needed. You are not here to parent him into maturity. You are not here to wait indefinitely while your needs remain unmet. Waiting is sacred only when it is mutual. Otherwise, it becomes stagnation disguised as faith. Heaven is correcting that misunderstanding now. You may sense a shift within yourself, a quiet firmness replacing constant hope. That is not hardness, that is alignment. When a woman begins to value herself fully, the dynamic around her must change. Some people rise, others resist, and some fall away. That outcome is not controlled by force, it is revealed by truth. You do not need to announce ultimatums or create conflict. Your clarity will speak louder than any confrontation. When you stop overgiving, the imbalance becomes visible. When you stop compensating, reality surfaces. That is when real decisions are made. A man who is meant to walk beside you will not feel threatened by your self-respect. He will feel challenged to grow. If he chooses growth, alignment will follow. If he chooses avoidance, distance will reveal itself naturally. Either way, you will no longer be stuck in confusion. Heaven values peace over prolonged uncertainty. You may still care deeply, and that care does not disappear just because clarity arrives. But care without direction leads to emotional exhaustion. Angels are guiding you to care with wisdom now. This does not mean closing your heart, it means protecting it. You are not losing anything by standing in truth. What is meant for you cannot be destroyed by honesty. What leaves because of clarity was never stable enough to hold you long term. Remember, divine connections are refined by truth, not preserved by silence. You are allowed to change how you show up. You are allowed to conserve energy. You are allowed to expect reciprocity. Heaven does not require sacrifice that erases identity. It requires partnership that strengthens both. You are stepping into a phase where self-respect becomes non-negotiable. This phase may feel unfamiliar, because you have been giving more than receiving for a long time. But unfamiliar does not mean wrong. Growth often feels uncomfortable before it feels empowering. Trust what is rising within you. That quiet knowing is not rebellion, it is wisdom. You do not need to rush outcomes. Let actions reveal alignment. Let consistency prove intention. Let silence expose avoidance. You are not here to chase clarity, you are here to embody it. When you do, everything around you will respond accordingly. Heaven moves when a woman stands in truth without fear. You are being supported in this shift, even if it feels lonely at times. You are not alone. Angels are closer now than they have ever been, guiding you toward balance, dignity, and peace. What comes next will be clearer than what you have endured, because confusion cannot survive where truth is fully acknowledged. There is a deeper layer to this message that must now be revealed, because what you are experiencing is not only about relationship dynamics, it is about spiritual order and self-recognition. When heaven calls you a wife, it speaks of identity before it speaks of union. Identity must be honored internally before it can be honored externally. You have been standing in the energy of commitment while the other side has been standing in the energy of convenience, and that mismatch creates emotional fatigue that no amount of patience can heal. You may have noticed how often you felt strong one moment and depleted the next, hopeful in thought yet heavy in the body. That fluctuation is not instability, it is your inner wisdom responding to inconsistency. The soul always reacts when something sacred is treated casually. You have been sensing that you are giving more clarity than you are receiving, more emotional presence than you are being met with, and more understanding than is being returned. This does not mean you loved wrongly, it means you loved fully. The issue is not the depth of your love, it is the lack of equal grounding on the other side. Heaven honors love that is balanced, not love that drains one vessel to fill another repeatedly. You were never meant to become smaller to make room for someone else's hesitation. You were meant to expand together. This phase is exposing the difference between emotional attachment and divine partnership. Attachment survives on hope alone. Partnership survives on action, responsibility, and shared growth. You have been holding space for a future that required his participation, yet participation cannot be forced through faith alone. Faith must be matched with choice. You may have wondered if your expectations were too high, but divine order never requires you to lower standards that protect your dignity. Standards are not walls, they are boundaries that keep love healthy. Without them, even sincere feelings collapse under imbalance. Heaven is asking you now to observe, not to assume. Observe how he responds when you no longer overextend. Observe whether presence increases when effort is required. Observe whether actions align when comfort is removed. Observation is not manipulation, it is discernment. You are allowed to discern without guilt. Discernment is wisdom in motion. You have carried emotional responsibility long enough to recognize what is sustainable and what is not. If something requires you to constantly explain your worth, it is already misaligned. Worth does not need persuasion. It needs recognition. You are not here to audition for priority. You are here to be chosen deliberately. Heaven does not confuse endurance with devotion. Endurance without nourishment leads to quiet resentment, even in the most loving hearts. Angels are protecting you from reaching that point. They are guiding you toward balance before bitterness takes root. This is why clarity is arriving now. You are being asked to step out of survival mode and into self-respect. Survival mode convinces you to accept crumbs to avoid emptiness. Self-respect teaches you that temporary emptiness is better than constant depletion. You may fear what happens if you stop giving as much, but what is meant to stay will not leave because you chose health. Only imbalance resists correction. Love that is real adjusts. Love that is immature withdraws. Either outcome brings truth. You are not responsible for managing his readiness. You are responsible for honoring your own alignment. That is where your power has always been. When you stop absorbing inconsistency, the dynamic shifts naturally. There is no need for dramatic confrontation. Your energy will communicate what words have not. Calm firmness carries more authority than emotional pleading ever could. Heaven is teaching you this now because you are ready to embody it. You have grown through patience. Now you are growing through clarity. This growth may feel lonely, because it separates you from old patterns of overgiving. But loneliness in alignment is temporary. Loss of self is far more damaging. You are not losing love by standing upright. You are losing confusion. That is a gain. This phase is also revealing how deeply you value stability, consistency, and emotional safety. Those desires are not weaknesses. They are indicators of readiness for real partnership. If someone cannot meet you there yet, it does not diminish what you bring. It highlights the distance they must still travel. You are allowed to stop waiting for potential to mature while your present needs remain unmet. Potential is not a promise. Action is. Heaven operates on truth, not projection. This message is anchoring you back into reality, not to disappoint you, but to free you. Freedom begins when you stop negotiating your worth internally. You no longer need to convince yourself that things will change without evidence. You are allowed to trust what you see. Trust does not mean blind faith. It means alignment between belief and behavior. When alignment is missing, trust becomes self-betrayal. Angels will not let you betray yourself any longer. This is why your tolerance has been shifting, why certain behaviors no longer feel acceptable, and why silence feels heavier than before. You are outgrowing imbalance. That is not loss, that is evolution. Stay present with this awareness. Do not rush to fix anything. Let truth do its work. Let consistency reveal itself, or let distance clarify what words could not. Either way, you will regain peace. Peace does not come from certainty about others. It comes from certainty about yourself. That certainty is returning now, quietly but firmly. You are stepping into a season where your value is no longer negotiable, even internally. Heaven is proud of this growth. Angels stand with you as you choose balance over confusion, dignity over depletion, and truth over fear. What unfolds next will reflect this shift, because when you change how you stand, the world must adjust around you. As this awareness deepens, you may begin to notice how your inner world is reorganizing itself. Thoughts that once looped endlessly now pause. Reactions that once came from fear now feel slower, more deliberate. This is not emotional withdrawal, it is emotional clarity. You are no longer operating from the urgency to hold everything together. You are beginning to understand that balance cannot be achieved by one person carrying the entire structure. When heaven assigns partnership, it assigns shared responsibility. Anything else is imbalance pretending to be devotion. You are seeing now how often you filled gaps that were never yours to fill, how frequently you softened truths to avoid discomfort, and how easily you accepted less because you believed love required sacrifice without limit. Sacrifice is sacred only when it is mutual. Otherwise, it becomes erosion. This realization does not erase your compassion. It refines it. You can still care deeply without abandoning yourself. You can still love without losing clarity. This is a higher form of love, one that honors both connection and self-respect. As you step into this understanding, the dynamic around you must respond. Some responses will be subtle. Some will be delayed. Some will be revealing. Pay attention without attachment. You are not here to control outcomes. You are here to remain aligned. Alignment creates its own consequences. When you no longer chase reassurance, reassurance must either rise or dissolve. When you no longer over-explain, understanding must either deepen or fade. This is not manipulation. It is natural law. Energy responds to structure. You are restructuring yourself from the inside out. This process may bring moments of doubt. You may wonder if you are becoming distant or guarded. You are not. You are becoming anchored. There is a difference. Guardedness closes the heart out of fear. Anchoring steadies the heart in truth. You are not closing. You are centering. Heaven supports this shift because it restores order. Order does not diminish love. It sustains it. Without order, even sincere feelings collapse under pressure. You have lived long enough in that collapse to recognize it. Now you are choosing something different. You are choosing to let actions speak without interruption. You are choosing to let silence reveal what words concealed. You are choosing to stop interpreting inconsistency as complexity. Simplicity is truth. Effort either exists or it does not. Presence either shows or it avoids. Priority is either demonstrated or deferred. You no longer need to analyze beyond that. This simplicity may feel stark at first, because you have been living in emotional nuance for so long. But stark truth brings relief. It removes the burden of interpretation. You are not responsible for reading between lines that should have been spoken clearly. You are responsible for honoring what is shown. Heaven is teaching you discernment through lived experience. This discernment will serve you beyond this connection. It will shape how you allow access, how you invest energy, and how you recognize alignment. You are stepping into a season where your standards are not defensive, they are reflective of your growth. Growth changes what you tolerate. This is natural. Do not shame yourself for evolving. Do not rush to explain yourself to anyone who benefited from your silence. Explanations are not required for boundaries to exist. Boundaries speak through consistency. As you hold this new posture, you may notice emotional waves rise unexpectedly. Memories, hopes, or old conversations may surface. Let them pass without judgment. Processing does not mean regression. It means integration. You are integrating lessons that were once painful into wisdom that will now protect you. This integration takes time. Be patient with yourself. You have been patient with others far longer. It is time to extend that patience inward. Heaven is not pressuring you to decide anything immediately. It is inviting you to remain present with truth. Truth will clarify timing. You may also notice that your intuition feels sharper now. Subtle cues stand out. Energy shifts register more clearly. This is not hypervigilance. It is alignment. When you stop suppressing your inner voice, it becomes audible again. Trust it. That voice has been guiding you all along. You simply learn to override it to maintain connection. You no longer need to do that. Connection that requires self-override is not sustainable. Heaven is guiding you back into congruence. Congruence is peace. When who you are, what you feel, and how you act align, peace follows naturally. This peace does not depend on anyone else's behavior. It depends on your honesty with yourself. You are reclaiming that honesty now. As you do, the external world will adjust. Some adjustments will feel affirming. Others may feel destabilizing. Both are part of realignment. Do not cling to old structures out of fear. They served a purpose once, but you have outgrown them. Growth requires release. Release does not always look dramatic. Often it looks like quiet detachment from what no longer nourishes you. That quiet detachment is already happening. You are less reactive. Less anxious. Less eager to fix. These are signs of healing, not indifference. Indifference numbs. Healing clarifies. You are clarifying. This clarity will continue to unfold, layer by layer, revealing truths not only about him, but about you, about what you need, what you value, and what you will no longer accept. This unfolding is still in motion. Do not try to resolve it prematurely. Let it breathe. Let it show you what patience with yourself truly feels like. You are learning to stand without leaning. You are learning to love without losing ground. You are learning to wait without shrinking. This learning is not complete yet. It is still shaping you, still strengthening your spine, still refining your heart, and still preparing you for what must come next. This is where the message settles, not with urgency, not with fear, but with grounded truth. You have walked through awareness, clarity, and reordering, and now you stand in a quieter strength that does not need to announce itself. What you carry forward from here is not confusion, but self-recognition. You understand now that being called a wife in destiny was never permission to accept neglect, and love was never meant to feel like constant waiting. You see clearly that priority is not promised through words, it is proven through choice. This understanding does not harden your heart. It steadies it. You are no longer asking for proof through endurance. You are allowing life to show you alignment through action. This is wisdom earned, not innocence lost. Whatever unfolds next will not catch you unprepared, because you are no longer abandoning yourself to preserve connection. You are standing whole. If he rises into responsibility, it will be because truth awakened him, not because you carried him there. If he does not, clarity will protect you from staying where imbalance would continue. Either outcome honors you. That is the peace you are stepping into. You no longer need to chase reassurance, interpret silence, or negotiate your worth internally. You know now that divine order always favors dignity. What is meant to align will meet you in effort. What cannot will fall away without chaos. You are not losing love. You are losing illusion. That loss creates space for something real. Let that space remain open without fear. You are supported. You are seen. You are not forgotten by heaven, and you are not invisible in this process. You are learning that love begins with self-respect, and partnership begins with mutual choice. Carry this knowing forward gently. There is no rush now. Only alignment.